Welcome to those of you in the sanctuary and those online to the Christmas pageant of the United Church of Strafford. We are so blessed to have this wonderful way to look at Christmas through the Nativity puppet show created by Rachel Guaraldi and told through her rich perspective as chaplain, teacher, spiritual director, and most of all, mother. Rachel has been inspired by puppetry of the Waldorf tradition and wonder-based storytelling of godly play and her own creative spirit. So thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing your gifts with us. Please note that we all have a role, and we will be singing verses of carols from the Bright Red Methodist hymnal when Rachel gives us the cue. So have your bulletin ready so that you can see which hymns we're going to sing, and also we're going to sing only selected verses of those hymns. So just note that. You may want to put a piece of paper in the hymnal so that you can get to it quickly. Please remain seated while singing. That's crucial. We're also going to have a moment during the story when Rachel will invite all the children to go back to the back of the sanctuary and receive a gift to bring forward and give to the baby Jesus in the manger, like the wise ones in the story. At the end of the Nativity puppet show, Rachel will help us think about it and talk about it. Any questions before we begin? We're going to start with an African-American spiritual that we hope that the children will help us, help the choir sing.
In fact, we're starting off with a bang. You're all going to help. And we need the children, first of all, come up front here. You can check out what Rachel has set up. It's pretty cool.
Sit on the ground.
Come on up.
You're going to sing with me.
You're going to kind of sit down, like gather in the front to start with. All right. Yeah. Get on settled. Okay. Super. Okay. So Kay and Rachel are going to help you guys sing, and you have a special part, and it goes like this. One for the little bitty baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger. Can you try that? Let's try that.
Okay.
Ready?
One for the little bitty baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger.
Good. Okay, that's your special part. We're going to do some that we sing all together, but that's your special part. Okay. Now I need the choir. Go out and find yourself some folks to sing with. All right? Okay. Dispatch yourself throughout. Come on, Christina. Up. Find some folks to sing.
She's found some folks.
Oh, you got, okay. You got one. Yeah, okay, great. Awesome. And I'm going to join you guys back there in a second.
And we know you're really not.
All right. So, we got number two. You get to rehearse your part.
Oh, you're in the big group?
Two's right over there.
Two for Paul and Silas.
Beautiful. Okay. Now, three. Where's that three?
Three.
Okay, go.
Three for all the children.
Okay. And then four.
Yes.
Four for the four who stood by the door.
Who's going to sing with Joe?
We can do this.
All right. Yeah, you got it. And then I'm five, and I'm not sure where I'll be, but I'll be over there. Okay. Five for the gospel preachers. You and me together. One more time. Five for the gospel preachers. Okay, now it's
Six for the six back. 6 for the 6 who couldn't get fixed.
6 for the 6 who couldn't get fixed.
Okay, there we go. Amber's going to lead it, and we all have some parts that we all sing together. Children, go where I send thee. We sing, how shall I send thee? So let's try that all together.
How shall I send thee?
And that's great. And then at the end, we're all going to sing together. Born, born, born in Bethlehem. All right.
Okay.
So here we go. You got your note? Let's go.
Everybody
goes in verses and we add a number each time, so you'll get plenty of times to sing your part, okay?
Except for us.
When we sing our verse, or do we stand up?
I can stand up all day. Easier on the knees.
Okay, you ready, kids? Oh, children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? Oh, I'm going to send thee one by one.
One for the itty baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in the manger.
Say he was born, born, born in Bethlehem. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? Oh, I'm going to send thee two by two. Two for Paul and Silas.
One for the itty baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger.
Say he was born, born, born in Bethlehem. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? Oh, I'm going to send thee three by three. Three by children, two for Paul and Silas.
One for the itty baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger.
Say he was born, born, born in Bethlehem. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? Oh, I'm going to send thee four by four. Four, 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 each to every door.
Three for all the children.
Two for Paul and Silas.
One for the itty baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger.
He was born, born, born in Bethlehem. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? I'm going to send thee five by five. Five for the gospel preacher. Four for the Lord who stood by the door. Three for all the children. Two for Paul and Silas.
One for the itty baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger.
He was born, born, born in Bethlehem. Say, children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? Oh, I'm going to send thee six by six.
6 for the 6 who couldn't get fixed.
Four for the apostle, three for the four who stood by the door. Three for all the children. Two for Paul and Silas. One for the little baby, wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger. He was born, born, born in Bethlehem.
Welcome, everyone. If you can't see and you want to move up, you're welcome to. You're welcome to sit on the floor if you'd like, or move up a little bit. I'll be at sort of different levels throughout the story. This is a special story. It's a story about a journey. It's a story about a birth. It's a story about a king who came to change everything. A king who is not a king of violence and ruling, but a king of peace, of love, of joy. A king that would challenge those who did not have peace and love and joy in their hearts. A king who was born a baby in a stable, in a manger, a long, long time ago. Long ago, far, 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 far away from here, across the oceans, into the desert, to a place between mountains, where it was green and lush. Not too far away, there was a beautiful lake known as the the Sea of Galilee. It was the Galilee region, and there was a beautiful stone city called Nazareth. And in a humble little house in the city lived a humble carpenter named Joseph. And the woman he was intended to marry, he was engaged. They weren't married yet. Her name was Mary. And Mary was an unusual woman. At that time, she was engaged to marry Joseph, and yet she was carrying a baby. It was unusual in that time for a woman to have a baby before she was married. And we don't know quite why or how, though we were told that this child's father was God. And Mary had been told in a dream that this was to happen. And Joseph had been told in a dream that this was to happen. And so they lived this unusual life. Well, one day in their humble little house in the city of Nazareth, big, important people came to the town and they said, "We are going to have a census. We need to count every single person in all of the land. And the way we're going to do this," they didn't have the internet or even mail, really, that they could send in a form. "The way that we're going to do this is we're going to make everybody go back to the city of their family." Each family was originally from a different city in the land, and Joseph's family was the family of David, and their hometown was Bethlehem. So Joseph needed to travel all the way back to Bethlehem. Now this is about 90 miles from where Nazareth was. 90 miles. That's like walking from here to St. Albans, or here to Manchester, or walking from here to Bennington, Vermont. 90 miles. Now for a strong, healthy person, maybe could do 10 to 20 miles a day. But for a woman who is 8 to 9 months pregnant, it was going to take a little bit longer. So Joseph looked around. They were very poor, and he borrowed a donkey, a sweet donkey, and they set off to walk those 90 miles. Now, as they were walking to Bethlehem, the train changed from lush green trees and rivers to stony desert. They had to walk up and over mountains, and down mountains, and up mountains, and down mountains. It was dry, it was dusty. And not only that, but there were thousands and thousands of people on the road traveling. It was crowded, it was hot. Mary felt hot. Sometimes Mary would ride the donkey. When you're pregnant, riding a donkey can be really tiring after a while. And so she would get down and she would walk, and the donkey would walk with her. But sometimes when you're pregnant, walking is really tiring too, and so she would get back on the donkey and they would slowly walk. It took them a long, long time. And there's all these really beautiful stories about wells that sprung up with water, rose bushes that sprung to life to help Mary make it to Bethlehem. Well, they walked, and they walked, and they walked. Up and down mountains, all around. In fact, they had to go through Jerusalem, which was the biggest city of them all, and it was so crowded and so hot, and they had so little money. They stayed outside in one of the camps. And then they did the last 10 miles from Jerusalem to Bethlehem. Finally, at the end of a long and weary day, they made it to Bethlehem. As they came into Bethlehem, they began to look around for a place to stay. They had very little money, and they were looking for a simple place that they could lay down. Now, Mary, being 8, 9 months pregnant, had just made this long, hard journey. And once they got to Bethlehem, she started feeling a little strange. Her belly started hurting, her body started contracting, and she began to wonder, perhaps the baby was coming now. Now, she and Joseph had hoped, they had prayed that they would get to Bethlehem and home before the baby arrived, where they could be safe and surrounded by other people they knew. But it was not meant to be. And as Mary felt the baby coming, Joseph and Mary began to feel panicked that they needed a safe place to have their baby. Now, at that time, it was Jewish culture that when a woman had a baby, if she had a baby boy, she was completely untouchable for 7 days, and then deemed unclean for another 33. If she were to have a girl, she was deemed completely untouchable, nida, for 14 days, and then unclean for 66. So having a baby away from home, away from the safe confines of your family, away from a place that you could call your own, was really nerve-wracking. And anybody who saw Mary could probably figure out that she was in labor at this point. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Bethlehem all traveling, and there was no room in the inns. And even if there was a room in the inn, most innkeepers, if they were to allow Mary to birth her child in their inn, the people in the inn would have to go someplace else, because the whole building would be deemed nida, untouchable, for that period of time. So they went from one place to another, knocking on the doors. Is there any room in the inns? Is there any room? We're having a baby. Is there any room? And every door shut in their face. Now it was quite dark at that point, and they were quite panicked. They weren't sure what was going to happen. And they walked all the way to the very end of the city, the very end where the poorest dwellings were, where the stables, where the donkeys and the cows lived, and they knocked on the last door. Joseph and Mary and their donkey waited. Innkeeper came out and he looked at them and he shook his head sadly. There's no room. I have no rooms in my inn. Now it may have been his wife or his sister. Maybe it was his daughter. Came up behind him and saw what was happening and whispered in his ear. Perhaps she said, we cannot turn them away. Remember when we had children and how vulnerable we were. They need a safe place. They need a safe place for the night. The innkeeper thought, and he thought hard, and then he said to them, come, there is a clean and simple stable in the back. Come and lay down, rest your heads for the night. And so the innkeeper led Joseph and Mary to a clean, simple stable. The donkeys and the horses moved over a little bit and gave them room. And in the wee hours of that morning, Mary had a baby. Little baby Jesus was laid in a manger, wrapped in simple swaddling clothes, surrounded by the cows and the sheep and the donkeys in the quiet of the night. Join me in singing our first hymn.
Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the
That same night, a very special star had been traveling through the heavens and settled over the stable in Bethlehem. It was a new star. Can you sit down, Maclina? It was a new star that had never been seen before, and it shone its heavenly light down over Bethlehem. Well, in the nearby shepherds' fields, not too far away, the shepherds were out sleeping, watching their sheep. There's probably one or two up, making sure the wolves didn't get any of the sheep, while the others laid down. Well, all of a sudden, they were awoken. And they looked up into the sky, and there was an angel high up in the sky. An angel maybe as big as these angels here, up there. Now imagine how you would feel if you looked up in the sky and there was a huge heavenly being that was looking down at you. Well, the shepherds were terrified. They were so afraid. They started to tremble. Some of them started to cry. They bent down to pray. And the angel said, "Be not afraid." Can you say that with me? Be not afraid. For tonight, a miracle has happened. A baby has been born in a humble stable. A baby who will be king. A king that will change everything. A king of peace and joy and love. The angels came out, and the shepherds looked up into the skies, and they were full of thousands and thousands of heavenly beings with trumpets and singing Gloria, Gloria, Gloria. And we are going to sing as well our next hymn. Shepherds were told by the angels to go and visit the baby in the stable, which was highly unusual at this time. Again, remember that the baby and his mother, it was not typical to go and visit a child who'd been recently born. And yet the shepherds had had such an amazing spiritual experience with the angels, they just knew they had to go seek out this king. So they went and they looked and they looked and they looked and they found Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus in the stable, in the back, the very back of Bethlehem. And they told Mary and Joseph about the angels, about the star that was shining down, about the amazing message that their baby was going to be king of the world, a king of love and peace and joy. Mary and Joseph were very tired at this point. And they were very overwhelmed by this message. And the shepherds went back to their fields, and Mary and Joseph tended to their little baby, and they slept. Well, the shepherds were not the only ones to get this message, that this king had been born. In fact, the message spread through the land. And the king of the area, not a king of peace and joy and love, but one of ruling, of power, of violence, King Herod. He heard that this baby had been born, and do you think he liked that there was another king in his land? No. And so he thought, I want to find this baby, and I want to get rid of him. But as king, he couldn't just say that to people. So he said, I would like to bestow upon this new king gifts, lovely, wonderful gifts. Please, if anyone can find him, please let me know. And so Herod went to his advisors, and he went to his astrologers, and he went to these people and these people, and nobody could find the baby. Nobody could find the baby. It was as if there was a magical mist over their minds. Nobody could find the baby for Herod. Well, 3 magi's, 3 Zoroastrian priests had been traveling far and wide. They came from a land hundreds of miles away in Persia, and they had been visiting, traveling, following this star. There was this star, this new star in the sky, and they had followed it for months and months and months, and it had led them to Bethlehem. Well, Herod found out that these Zoroastrian priests, these magi's, these magicians, these astrologers, these wise people were in town. And so he called for them and said, "My wise friends, please help me out. I am looking for a baby who has been born a king in a lowly manger. Please find him so that I may bestow upon him gifts." So the wise men went out. The magi went out, and they listened to the stories of the king who had been born. They listened to the people, and it led them. The star and the people led them to the manger. And there in the manger, in a humble place, they found baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph. And with that, they brought him gifts. Before we talk about the gifts that they brought, I would like to invite all of you, as we sing our next hymn, to help us bring gifts to those who need it back from the back of the church forward. These are cans and food for our food pantry to help those in need in our area. So please join me in the back as we sing We Three Kings. Okay, come on up, everyone. Now, the three magi's, or wise kings, wise men that we have, different names for them, they brought 3 gifts. They brought gold. You want to pass that around so people can see it? Gold being a very valuable monetary source for somebody that is poor, that needs the money to maybe return home or to find a safe place to live for a period of time. Gold was a gift for a king, but also very welcomed. Another one of the wise men brought frankincense. Frankincense is an herb that's often made into a perfume. Let's pass these around. And is also a very valuable thing to give to a baby. No, can you go sit down, please? And the third gift that the Magi gave was myrrh. Myrrh was most often used as an incense, and we know it best as an incense. You see that? An incense that is used for embalming at the time of death. And there's a lot of different stories about why these 3 gifts. Well, I did a little research about the last 2, and what I learned that from a midwife perspective, frankincense and myrrh were used in the time for frankincense to combat postpartum depression and anxiety. It was used to uplift the spirits. And myrrh was used as a balm to decrease swelling and to help the healing process. So in fact, frankincense and myrrh were the perfect gifts for a woman who had just had a baby. And as poor as Joseph and Mary were, the likelihood that they would have been able to afford any of that medicine at the time was unlikely. And so even though they were also gifts given for a king, they were gifts for Mary as well. So, thank you, sweetie. I'll take her for a minute. So the wise men came. It took them a while to find the baby Jesus, and we celebrate the wise men coming usually on January 6th, or the day of Epiphany. And when they found Jesus lying in the manger, he might have actually had a home by that point. We don't quite know, but he was definitely still in Bethlehem. And the night after the Magi found Jesus, the Magi had a dream. They were big into dreams, and lots of dream interpretation at that time. And the dream told the wise men that Herod was not happy about this baby, and Herod wanted to kill the baby. So when they woke up, they told Mary and Joseph. Well, Joseph had a very similar dream, and he had been told by an angel, can you sit down, please? He had been told by an angel that he needed to take his family and go to Egypt until Herod was no longer king, for Herod was a danger to baby Jesus. So they shared their dreams that next morning, and the wise men decided to return back to their homes in a different path, avoiding Herod completely. Joseph, Mary, and the baby Jesus, along with their trusty donkey, they too left by a different road and traveled the long and arduous journey to Egypt, where they lived for several years until it was safe to go back home. And that's the story of a journey, a story of a birth, a story of the beginning of a king who would come to change everything. A king of peace and of love and of joy. The story of baby Jesus coming out into the world in a new way. I wonder what about that story you liked the best.
I like when the baby Jesus was born.
You liked when the baby Jesus was born? That was a good part. Anybody is welcome to share. I wonder what you liked best about the story. Yes.
I didn't realize that the wise men had traveled for so long, and they had this conviction, this faith that they needed to follow the star and keep going. I really liked that part, that it was months.
This, Persia is about 240 miles away from Bethlehem. And so even if they were traveling on camels, it would have taken them a very long time. Yes?
So, how long were they in the stable for? Because if the star appeared after Jesus had been born, and that's when they started traveling, they would have been traveling for a while, yeah?
So there's controversy on that. Some people think that the star appeared in the sky before Jesus' birth, but then traveled and became stationary at the time of his birth over Bethlehem.
I see.
So traveled through, and so they saw it and then traveled with it to that point. Also reading the Gospels, one of the Gospel accounts actually talk about the 3 wise men visiting Joseph's house in Bethlehem. That by the time that the 3 magi got there, they were no longer in the stable. Most likely the town had cleared out, they had found a simple room for them to be in, and Mary would have been finished that initial 7 days of untouchability and then deemed unclean, which would give her a little more wiggle room of like where to be, even though it was still countercultural for anybody to visit her during that time.
Okay.
Learning about the use for frankincense and myrrh, and also thinking about gold as a useful thing for setting up
Yes.
their new life in Egypt.
Yep, definitely. When I was reading that, there's all these really amazing articles that are written about what the uses of those actually could have been. So that was a new thing for me this year too. Any other wonderings? Do you have any wonderings about this story or things that rose up and sparkled for you this year? Well, let us continue taking our wonderings with us as we continue to live this time of Advent leading up to the birth of Jesus. I'll turn it back over to Tom.
Thank you, Rachel. And the next thing we're going to do is light the Advent candles, at the wreath here. And I wonder if any of you know what any of these candles represent, what they stand for, because each one has a different meaning. Do you know any of them? Anybody can call them out. Peace. Peace is one. Hope. Joy. Love, yes. And this one we light on Christmas Eve, the big white one, and that's for Jesus. Okay? So, Alicia and Milo, if you want to come up. Today we're going to light the two purple ones we've already lit, but we're also going to light the pink one. Come on over here. There you go. Yeah, perfect. Good. So this is a tradition from when Advent was like Lent. I don't know if you've ever heard of Lent, but Lent is a time when there's like no parties, no yummy foods, no joyful music. Back in the old days, Advent was like that, except on the third Sunday of Advent, which was called Gaudete, or Joy Sunday. And then, for a big good time, they lit a pink candle. So we're going to do this. So it's not the candle of happiness, though. It's the candle of joy, and there's a difference. And here's one way of thinking of it. Imagine that you are shipwrecked on a desert island, just you, all by yourself on a desert island, and you're sad and afraid and lonely. But one day, a box bobs up on the waves onto the shore, and you open it, and it's full of funny books and pictures of cute kittens and puppies, and you feel you laugh, and you feel distracted for a little while from your problem. Well, that's happiness. but it's kind of just on the surface, and it doesn't last forever. So then, one day, you're on this island, and a ship appears. A ship on the horizon. And it gets closer and closer, and you begin to think, maybe it'll, you're standing, you're waving, saying, come on, come save me. And when it gets close, you see that your family is on the ship. And they have come for you to save you. So you feel so much joy that you start to cry. So Advent joy, that's Advent joy. It's not as much about getting gifts that make us momentarily happy as the coming of someone whose love will save us from desert islands of loneliness or grief or fear, someone who can bring us home to hope and peace and joy all the days of our life. So this king that Rachel was talking about, who is going to be the king of love and joy and peace, that's what Advent joy is about.
Let us remember the words of the angels at the birth of Jesus. Fear not, for behold, we bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people.
Jesus taught us to love God and neighbor and treat all the earth with love. He said if we did that, we would have complete joy.
We light this candle to proclaim our faith in the light of that joyful love of God, of neighbor, and of the earth. It is a joy that can come to us at Christmas or any time that we open our hearts to love, even in the midst of the hardest struggle or darkest night. This special joy that Jesus taught us is a light that shines in the darkness. It is so bright that even darkness cannot hide its brightness.
So the first candle is the candle of hope, and then the candle of peace, and now the candle of joy.
As Christmas approaches, we ask God both for the laughter and pleasures that make for happiness and for the loving connections that make for joy. We know, though, that many of us are not happy. Many of us miss people at Christmas. Many are worried or sick or in pain. So we pray for one another and for everyone that we may all find the joy that does not depend on things being perfect. May we find it in love present or love remembered, and in the knowledge that God's love is with us always. This is the joy Jesus wants us to have.
So I want you to think about who you want to have that joy. We're gonna pray for people to have that joy that we're talking about. It could be individuals, it could be groups, it could be places, so I will come around with a microphone, and if you have somebody that you would like to pray for, who did I just? Somebody you'd like to pray for who would feel or experience this joy, or some place in the world, or some group, I will bring the microphone to you. And anybody, adults, children, anybody you'd like to pray for today. I think it was everybody. There was a sweep of a finger. Others? Anybody you'd like to really see be joyful?
There are so many people who are estranged from their families right now, and I pray for them to find peace.
Others? don't know if I can say this without, okay, who are you pointing to? You?
I'm just going to reiterate our line from Children Go Where I Send Thee, which is for prayers for all the children. And for all the children.
All people today in war zones.
Oops, excuse me, sorry. I would ask for joy for everyone who lives in this area where these things took place. This was a story about miracles, right? It was a story about miraculous things happening. And joy in that part of the world right now is something that is going to take miracles. Every day, little miracles for it to happen. And I pray that love that leads to joy is there. Anybody else? Yes, Milo.
I pray for the people in Ukraine to feel joy right now because there's like the war and stuff. I also pray for the Russians to feel joy, the ones who are attacking them, so that they can realize that it's wrong.
Amen. Amen. That's beautiful, Milo. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, Kate.
Milo, I was thinking kind of along the same lines as Milo, that I pray for people who worship money and things to find joy in other ways of valuing.
Right, exactly. I mean, the whole message of this story is that money and things are not, even though they got gold because they needed it, you need it in the world, that's not what this story is about, right? So. And joy for those who are going to receive these gifts at the food shelf, each can, may it be opened and joy come out of it, right? Any others? So let's just have a moment when we're going to hold all those prayers and send them to God, okay? So let's just pray together just for a minute. Amen. And good morning. Welcome again to the United Church of Strafford, an open and affirming congregation on this third Sunday of Advent. We acknowledge that we are on the ancestral and unceded land of the traditional caretakers, the Western Abenaki or Wabanaki people. We honor the ways in which the highest ideals of both indigenous peoples and this congregation create communities that nurture oneness and respect for all the creatures of the earth, communities of hope, peace, joy, and love. Today is all about joy, and two of the things that give this congregation greatest joy are to nurture children and to be a caring and supportive spiritual home. If you've ever gone through a hard time and felt the love of this church, you know how valuable and powerful this community can be. So please continue the spirit of loving community that we have just had after the service, extending your care especially to those you do not know and those you know who are struggling, so that everyone may feel that this is their spiritual home today. Please see the announcements in the bulletin. And note that there's going to be a really, truly beautiful Noel concert here this coming Friday. Don't miss it. Then Saturday, there is an open house. There will be an open house here. You can read about it in the bulletin. Everyone is invited, and bring your friends and family. Next Sunday is Mary Sunday. It's the lovely Sunday of love in Advent. It's the last Sunday in Advent. And the Canternote Church musicians will be here to help us just make it particularly lovely. Be sure to see the Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve calendar items too, because there are some unusual aspects to them. And Christmas Eve is a very child-friendly, family-friendly service. So, it's at 5:30, so that it's early enough so that people can get home and do other things. Any other announcements that need to be made on Zoom as well as anybody? Let's see. I'm not seeing. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody on Zoom has an announcement. So it's my job now to reorient us and remind us of what Advent means. The spiritual wisdom behind the season of Advent leads us on a path that actually simulates times when we feel lost in the dark. Advent encourages contemplative practices that can help us find light within the darkness and make a virtue of waiting in silence. But Advent also advocates active practices that can give us comfort and strength in hard times, like gathering in a community and helping others who are lost in their own kinds of shadows. We've had an outburst of Christmas joy this morning, which is fine. Irrepressible joy can be part of Advent too. But so too is a quieter, deeper joy, a feeling of longing and wide awake watchfulness for what we wait for a coming light. Advent is a little bit like going out on a really, really clear night when we can see stars, but if we stay longer and our eyes adjust, we start to see the stars behind the stars. We are waiting in Advent for the light that filled Jesus to transform us and to transform our world in the direction of love and peace. It's the darkest time of the year in this hemisphere, and some of us struggle with that for good reason, for natural reasons. Some forms of darkness, and this, the way the world is right now, some forms of darkness feel hopeless and even terrifying. But the secret of Advent joy is that darkness can also be a beautiful thing. It is not that light is good and darkness is bad. We need both. We need to wait in the darkness. Darkness is a positive thing. We need to wait in the darkness of the womb, or we can't be born. We need darkness in order to be able to see the beauty of those stars. The best way through a hopeless kind of darkness, a hopeless, fearful dark, is to be present to it, having compassion on ourselves for what we're going through, reaching out for help, opening to the Spirit's merciful love, and sharing our own love with others who are in the darkness. The best way to experience the beautiful moments of darkness is also to be present to them and to let them transform us, to let them happen and be there with them. So my hope for you is that between now and Christmas Eve, you can open your heart to what can happen when we are fully present to both the darkness and the light. I hope you can savor whatever rituals you have at home or in the church, and savor the beautiful music this time of year, savor the beloved people in this beautiful church and village and earth, and the earth itself, as we wait and watch together in quiet and even in joyful anticipation of what we only hope with all our hearts is coming. So let us sing a carol, a song that really expresses that longing, that Advent longing perfectly. And we're going to sing, it's out of the other hymnal, the dark red pilgrim hymnal. It's number 110, O Come Emmanuel. And we're going to sing verses 2 and 3. Actually, you know what? Let's sing 2, 3, and 4, because 4 is about peace, and we need more of that. So verses 2, 3, and 4 of O Come Emmanuel, number 110 in the pilgrim hymnal. And you may stand. Please be seated. One of Advent's gifts is the invitation to enter the silence and wait in expectation that the light of the world is coming, the light we need. And also at the same time, the faith that that light is with us even now in this moment. It can be difficult, though, to find a quiet time and place in December, especially if you have children, but for all of us. So let us spend a couple of minutes now in silence, lifting all of our joys and concerns and prayer requests to the Spirit of the universe. Even more than that, simply resting in faith, as if watching in the dark for the rising of a star over the horizon, knowing that the Spirit is out there, it is in here, and we are held in this moment of grace. Let us savor it and be together, our hearts and minds as one in silence. Let us pray. Amen. Let us pray together. Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, way, truth, and life, force of love and light, flowing within and all around us. May your realm of compassion, justice, and peace rule our world. Thank you for nurturing and guiding us, forgiving us and helping us forgive, and leading us away from harmful desires. Please save us from all forms of evil, for you are our source, our home, our power, all goodness and beauty forever. Amen. Please remember that we are taking our offering in a few ways, in the basket at the back of the sanctuary, or online on the welcome page of our website, or through the mail. Nobel Peace Prize winner Albert Schweitzer said, "I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve." So by really happy, he meant the joy of meaningful connection and love. And that is what we receive when we give of ourselves to help create on earth the all-inclusive, loving, and peaceful world that Jesus envisioned. And that's what this offering that we do every week does. So thank you for participating in that joyful giving whenever and however you do. This Advent, we are singing benedictions set to a plain chant tune that was sung daily in monasteries during Advent for over 1,000 years. You will find it on page 4 of your bulletin. May you be blessed with Mary's joys. And as you sing, keep in mind that you are offering this blessing to those around you in the pews. This is your benediction for everyone else as well as for you. So remaining seated from page 4 or the screen share. And now we'll end the service in the spirit of prayer as we listen to the postlude.